Good evening, YouTubers. Welcome to episode 52 of Shrigleytube TV. Obviously, this is our 1 year in, so very excited about tonight's videos. Just something a little bit different, as in I have talked about one of my projects which I didn't ever share with anyone before because I thought it was going to make me millions of pounds, but I've realised now that it's probably not the way to go. So too many compromises. It's sort of a 2.5 litre engine based around the Lotus 907 engine, the Eclat and Lotus Sunbeam 2.2, that sort of thing. So you'll see more of that later in the video. Did a little job as well for someone, put a head on an engine and ran that, so that was good. Thanks for everyone that commented regarding Brands Hatch. We had an absolutely great time despite the water coming out of the oil cooler. That was just one of them things. But when we were racing, we had some great close racing, so really enjoyed that. And thanks for all the people that have messaged me personally and said, oh, you know, you need to do this, you need to do that. I am aware of where I need to be, and not buying tyres wasn't a financial thing. It was just purely that for this year, I wanted to do Mallory and Brandt and maybe Thruxton, but that'll be it. I'm not fussed. My focus is all about getting the space frame finished and on the road for next year, because that's what I want to race, the space frame, you know, the space, you've seen it in other videos. So, right, I'll stop waffling. I'll say thanks for coming back to view. I hope you've got some Pro Plus as well as your popcorn to keep you up when you're watching this, because it's about 40 minutes long. So, yeah, brilliant. I look forward to seeing you next Sunday at 7. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. Good morning, YouTubers. It's Wednesday morning. Didn't do any video on Monday or Tuesday just because we were so busy after Brands getting sorted out and settled back in. So we're back in the thick of it now. I've been working on this head and cam carrier followers arrangement for this little 998 that's come to me for a head, basically. It's a little interim job, we'll call it. Just sort of a bit of a squeezer in her. So the bottom end is one I've already done. It's a dry liner job, so you can see the liner sits inside the original cast liner there, but it is sat on a shelf, so that's all good. It's a recent engine I've done, and the chap had I think he had a problem with the head on it. He was building the engine himself, or he put most of it together, so he's basically said, can we fit a race head on it? So we've gone through a few different options and we've come up with this really nice chessman wedge head. Now probably you won't get that excited unless you're Hillman mad, but this is like the bee's knees of the Hillman heads. So being a chessman head, you'll see it has the ACC number there. It's a 482, in case any racers out there recognise it. And then what I've done is I've got another head. This is just a run-of-the-mill big valve head from back in the day. And I just thought I'd go through some of the differences just to give you guys an idea of how much trouble they went to back in the day. So if we look at the front of the head, you can see straight away, I'll just get a little pointer, this is thinner than this. And the reason that is when they've skimmed it, they've skimmed more off this side than this side. And the reason they do that, two reasons, well, maybe three reasons. First reason is it keeps the valve seat away from the corner of the face there. And the second reason is it actually increases the inlet angle. If you imagine the angle of the port, if we take more off that side, effectively it becomes more inclined, so we get a better angle for the short turn, you know, as we get the eggs to go on the corner where it goes into the chamber. So that's another reason, but probably the most important reason is by removing more material off this side of the head, it makes the chamber shallower on the deepest side, which allows you to get a better compression ratio. So this is an original chessman wedge head, and I do believe it may have never run. I'm not 100% sure. It came with a lot of stuff. It's obviously had a cam carrier that's been, you can see it will have ran with the old school cam carrier with the bronze sleeves in. I'm not particularly keen on that because the bronze sleeves sometimes go for a wander, but it's got enormous ports, etc. And one thing I did notice quite interesting was there's normally a hole here for an extra stud, but it's never had that. Also, if you look, this is a normal run-of-the-mill head. Can you see this index inside the thermostat housing? That's where the thermostat sits. But this one has never been machined for it. In fact, if you look inside the head, it looks like it's never had antifreeze in it. It's certainly not corroded anyway. So that was some of the reasons that made me think it's done either very, very little or nothing at all. So I think it's got beryllium copper seats as well, which is a nice material for the seats to be made out of. Sort of like a, I think the idea was it was quite soft, it's quite an absorbent material, so the valves didn't bounce when they landed on the seat. All I've done, made one of my appalling welds there just to strengthen it, because that's where they tend to crack. And obviously this has never cracked, but I just welded it to support it before it decided to. So you can also see on this head, all the waterways have been welded up, because they know that when they skim them, it goes thin. So you can see on this one, it hasn't been welded. There's quite a, you know, an undulation underneath there, and same on this side as well. Camera's not particularly brilliant, but you can basically see it's a hollow. So what they will have done is they will have scalloped all this out with an hurdy-gurdy and then filled it full of weld before they even started machining it. In fact, that brings me to the next part. If we look at this chamber, this valve seat, this is an oversized valve seat to run a 1.4 valve, as is this one. What they've done is, this is a standard shape of the chamber. And if we look at this one, you can see what they've done before they put the seats in. They've filled the deepest part of the chamber in, which allows them to give it a nicer flow as the air comes in. So obviously, I'm not like into turbulence or anything, but I imagine what would happen was this void here causes tumble, or whatever they call it. Just basically isn't that ideal for the airflow coming in, and also it's lost compression ratio, whereas this will attain a much higher compression ratio. I think I'm right in saying the spark plug holes have also been, the spot face has been made deeper. So this depth here is deeper, so that the spark plug intrudes and sits level in the chamber. Whereas these, if you look, you'll see it's quite shallow there. That's the original factory spot face. And they sit quite low, they sit about here. So lots of interesting differences on the head to make it what it is, a chessman wedge head. Now this will go well, it'll have a really good torque. The chaps opted to go for some steel cam followers, which I recommended, and this is a new BJ65 cam. So that's the 400 thou lift cam that Bob Jones designed for the engine, which is basically what everything runs in the CTCRC this weekend that you saw on the video last night, or I think Monday and Tuesday. This will be Sunday when you see this, won't it? So this is also an Andy Chessman. Interesting, this one says AC 659, whereas this one is an ACC. And someone did explain the difference to me once, but I've forgotten what it was. But there is some difference as to who they were like, either for the competition department or for a customer, so directly. So that's a bit of an insight into the head. I'm going to get the valves, I've lapped them in, check the guides, I'm going to build it all up, get it on this engine, and I want to get a tune out of it this week and in the out tray, because the chap's quite desperate to get out there and do some racing. So I'm going to do that for him, and I'm not sure. This is going to be episode 52, obviously, so this is my sort of milestone 1 year of doing YouTube as a bit more of a serious weekly thing. So I've got an engine that I want to talk about, but it's buried at the moment. It's here. This is my little engine that I got very excited about doing a long time ago, but I'll drop onto that later in the week. Okay, chaps, welcome back. We're on and running now with the 998 with the lovely chessman wedge head on it. It's a lovely head, and it did actually achieve quite a good compression ratio. So all that work that they went to back in the day, welding the chamber up to create a shallower floor in it and a smaller overall capacity in the chamber, it actually ended up at 21 something cc's, and that ended up at 12.5 to 1. So for a 998, that's really good, and it's certainly paid off, because the engine is fresh, you know, it's really keen. I've messed about with the carbs a bit, sorted them out, we had a pump circuit issue, and I've trimmed the advance curve, so it's doing a narrower swing now. So it's roughly starting with about 20 degrees static, hangs on it. With this cam, this is on obviously a reprofiled BJ65. It should hang on to 85, no worries. Try and get it at 7 and we'll let it go to 8. There you go, so holding a good 78 foot-pound at 7 there. 8,000, it was still holding about 70 foot-pound there. That's quite impressive, that. I think we might have I thought I could see a bit of a dull glow in the exhaust there, which might indicate that it wants some more advance. I'll give it a little mooch and we'll see what happens. We'll give it another run. Okay, I've just put 2 degrees in. See if it helps it. We'll try and get it at 5,000 first, where we were before. About the same. What we'll do is we'll let it run through. What I'm looking for is if the down pipes, the primary pipes, glow red, then on wide open throttle, then it's either lean, which I know it's not, because I've been either way with the jets, or we've got too much energy in the exhaust gases going down the pipe, which means it's not all being used in the chamber. So basically, if we start the burn earlier, we'll be able to burn more of the fuel. So we to compensate for that, we basically put a bit of advance in, which means we start the burn off earlier by putting the spark in earlier. It's a subject I've touched on in the past, but if you can just imagine, it takes time for things to happen inside an engine. So we can start the burn at one point in the hope that we can get it to expand and burn at exactly the right point to get the most push on the piston. So we won't go into that now. Anyway, right, let's lights up. 8,000 there. 8,000 still holding 75 foot-pounds, so we're into well over 100 horsepower here, maybe 105. Brilliant. Right, well I'm going to call that in the out tray and get on with the next job, I suppose. Okay, YouTubers, this may look like a pile of scrap on a bench and another pile of scrap on another bench. But I've been thinking, and because this is episode 52, so 1 year in now on Shrigleytube, this was a very special, very exciting project for me. It's Lotus 907 engine, and down here is the V8 imp engine. So what I'm going to do, it's Saturday, I thought it's been a busy week, I've not done much filming, I thought we'll do a chat about my little projects, and these are two of the things that I really want to get finished off. So we'll have a look at them together, and hopefully you'll find them of interest. Right, we're going to start with the V8 Hillman. Now, when I started this project, I was so excited about it. I couldn't even sleep. I was like, I had no kids at the time. I had loads of time on my hands. I just started off on my own business. It's probably about, I mean, on my own away from Bob's, it's probably a good 10 years ago. And I thought, right, I want to build a V8 imp. I want to do it. So I started this project, and unfortunately in recent years it's just been under the bench doing nothing. But what I did was I basically thought, well, it's 45 degrees one way, that way, so it was quite easy to put it on the miller and machine it all out to accept another bank. So this is a 930 block, so this is 70mm bore. This will bore to 70mm. So the theory was we'd have two 930cc engines as a V8. And what I was trying to do was I was trying to keep them in line. So, you know, obviously normally you've got one bank staggered, so you've got the offset on the rod. Also the rod offset doesn't affect it. I wanted mine in line because I wanted to run them on a big, I was going to run them on a big belt or a big chain, or I don't know what I was going to run them on. I was going to design that bit as it came along. So what I've done is, so far I've made some, if we just put the engine up on end, it's actually gone a bit rusty, which is very embarrassing considering that's how long it's been hanging around. But what I did was I put the, gosh, look at that, I put the crank in that offset jig that I've got,
and I widened the journals. And I widened the journals so that we could get 2 machine down imp rods side by side. Yeah. So I did that, and obviously it's all on, because of different loading, it's got steel mains caps in it. It's all proper. I mean, the work that's gone into it so far is massive. But what worked out was, because my learning curve is so steep, and I mean, like, I'm learning every day, you know, on how to go about doing the job better. One of the reasons I haven't come back to it, and the same for the next projects I'm gonna look at with you, is because I think we could do a much better job of it today, and next week we'll be able to do an even better job of it because we'll have learned something else about how to go about doing things. You know, things like watching Alan Milliard with the way he tackles his like his V12 engine and stuff like that. I've sussed him out. I reckon what he does is he just tackles one problem at a time. So his first problem was to amalgamate 2 bottom ends together. So he did that. Once he'd done that and got it all going round, then he looked at his cam chain and his camshaft arrangement and his starter motor, and you know, he didn't blow his mind with trying to think about how everything was going to go. He just focused on one part of the project at a time, mastered it, and then moved on to the next. So having seen his videos, now when I tackle this, I'll have a much better idea of how I'm going to go about it. So I was initially going to use imp rods, and I was going to run them and run the offset in the little end bush. So I might do that, and then, because things are better financially now, I think what we might do is we might go to Carl at Robson Engineering and say, Carl, please can you make me some proper rods for it, and get some proper rods made. Obviously, it's not ever going to be a race engine, but you know, it should be okay to function to a point and produce some decent horsepower. Obviously, it won't be like a Rover, because it'll be a flat plane crankshaft. So it's like it doesn't sound. It's a bit like a DFV basically. So you know, it's not the same firing order as like a traditional V8. It's like a giant, great big 4-cylinder engine. But when you get them revving, they sound lovely. That goes that way. Sorry. So the idea was, I'll just pause a second while I reposition the engine. Sorry, back with you. Right, the idea was that what we did was we put the heads on, the block on back to front, so that it brought the inlet and exhaust to the outside. So that would be the conventional way with the carburetors here. Obviously this one's spun through 180, so we'd have the carburetors and the exhaust out there. And obviously I've done the V8 project now with the Rover, which is much closer, and I'm still aiming to get that running for National Weekend if I can find enough time to get to it. It's not a million miles off. The hard work's been done. So yeah, lots of exciting projects to do, and we just need to live to about 150 years old to complete them all. But that was one little project I wanted to share with you. We'll move on now to the next one, and we'll see if you like that one. Okay, YouTubers, I feel like I'm sharing my deepest, darkest secrets with you guys here now. This has been a close guarded secret forever, and now I'm putting it all over YouTube. But I think I've realised that it's not commercially viable or ever going to make any money, which is basically what I need to do the things I want to do. So I thought I'll share it all with you and tell you what I've been up to. Now, this project started 10 years ago. I had some crazy dreams of building a 2.5 litre screamer for like the likes of my friend Tim in his rally car, etc. And the story started with, you might have seen him on YouTube. It's called Jersey Tim 100. He's got a BMW in Jersey. He does a lot of rallying with it. So I did a 2.2 M42 engine, which was basically a 1.8 M42 engine with a diesel crankshaft in it, and we got some rods and pistons made and Bob did some cams for it, and it was a great little engine. But Tim was like, right, can we have it 2.5 litre? I said, well, because of the bore space in the dynamics, we'd end up on like massive stroke if we get a crank made to make it 2.5 litre. Just to give you an idea, the background is, in the rallying circles, they're allowed to go 25% bigger on capacity on the original car. So it's a Mark II Escort with a 2 litre Pinto, it could be 2.5. If it's a BMW 320i, it can go to 2.5. Obviously 500cc bigger. So that's why everyone you know, uses the Millingtons, and more recently, I think we use like the Smith and Jones, and other 2.5 litre Pinto based, you know, Pinto bore centre based engines. So Tim was saying, well, can we do one of that? I said, well, I'd rather do something with a bigger pop and a longer engine, and shorter stroke, so we can see some proper RPM out of it. So I set about the project. Thankfully, I never took any money off it, because I said, you can just pay me when it's done. So I started about, the first project I did was I cut a 4.4 BMW X5 V8 engine into pieces and tried to make that work, and then I gave up on that because it was too many compromises. And then one day, it was like fate. I was in Bob Jones's workshop, and he was doing or one of the someone had brought in a Porsche Cayenne V8, and they were doing the head gaskets on it. It was a turbo one. So the head gasket was on the floor, so I just picked the head gasket up and said, could I have that head gasket, Bob? And he said, yeah, why, what are you doing? And I said, oh, I'm looking for a head to put on this Lotus bottom end that's got, you know, good breather capacity, because the original Lotus 907 head isn't particularly great at, you know, getting the air through it. I mean, they do good power, don't get me wrong, but compared to like a shallow angle chamber with, you know, big ports and stuff, and big valve area, they're not where they need to be for big horsepower. So he gave me this cylinder head gasket, so I took that away, and in the meantime I'd already bought a Porsche 907 engine, because I wanted to base my engine on that. So I came back to the workshop, and I just could not believe what I saw. You know, it was like it was meant to be. You can see the cylinder head bolt spacing is correct, the cylinder bore spacing is absolutely identical. It's like to within like 10th out. It's remarkable. So no doubt somebody on it watching the program will be like, oh, I'll do that to mine. Well, good luck to you. It's a bit of graft, but you know, it'd be well worth doing, especially if you've got time to do it. So I set about getting all the parts together, because obviously I wanted to make it 2.5 litre. The original Lotus was 2.2. So I bought this 84mm stroke steel crankshaft from Gary at Kemp Engineering over Hullway. So that was great. So I've got a crankshaft, and we'll move over here now. And I started looking at what I could do. I knew what dynamics I wanted to do, because at this stage I'd already done the Benoy engine with the long rods, etc. So we knew what the effects of the long rod to stroke ratio was back then. So I found some Chevy rods that I could make work, and they had 168mm centres. Well, it doesn't take a mathematician to work out that 168mm rod centre on an 84mm stroke gives you exactly 2-to-1 rod to stroke ratio, which is perfect, just perfect, as Alan Milliard would say. That was where I wanted to be. So if it's going to run to 8.5, 9,000, that's perfect. That was the dynamics I wanted. So then I set about finding a piston. So I mean, they're covered in crud, but these are actually brand new. This has been sat around for so long, I'm actually ashamed. But that is a oh my goodness, I can't remember. It was like a 2017. It's out of a single cylinder motorbike engine. So I think it was a Yamaha, was it a YZF 450, something like that? Piston out. So that's 97mm bore. So 97mm bore, 84mm stroke, gives you 2.5 litres, bang on the capacity limit. So I thought, right, great, we've got the bottom end sorted, we've got the head. So I made this cam cover. I'll just start disassembling it as we're talking. So yeah, that's not going to work, is it? It's all a bit loose, this. I just roughly assembled it so that I could show you what it looked like in one great big lump. So that's the cam cover, still full of swarf. I made that out of solid because I wanted to disguise it, because I was like, oh, it's going to be top secret, this. We're going to take over the world. And then I got Kent cams to, obviously, this was originally a gear-driven camshaft engine, so, and it was a V8, so the phasing was all wrong. So we got it put on a conventional 1342 cam profile. Bob Jones did us some 13mm lift, or I think it might be 13.5mm lift steel cams. So a cam that he'd already used in something else, so it's a known profile. And then this was my favourite bit, because it's what we call like a shallow angle head. The sprockets are quite close together. These are Vauxhall XE late ones, so they had to run inside each other. I've had all this bolted up, it does go round. So if you can imagine both cameras moving the same way there, just because the loops I can't really show you, but that would move around there like that. Anyway, yeah, so that was all a little bit on the tricky side, but exciting to see if it works. And then what I did was I also put the alternator and the triple stage scavenge pump and single pressure on the same axis as the belt. So the alternator, this is because it's quite a long engine, I needed it to fit into Tim's car without sticking out the front too much. So this is obviously, I was going to do 2 scavenge for the sump and 1 scavenge for the back of the head, and then obviously your pressure side for your oil pump. So that was that. And then on the inlet side, I found these generators round about, it must be about the time Rover went bump or something, but I bought these off the internet anyway. They weren't there, they were like 55mm throttle bodies off like a 1.4 SLI. And then this is just some exhaust tube with some nice trumpets knotted on the end. I can't remember how we grafted them in, but they did something. And then I was really big on the twin stage fuel injection, so we had 1 set of injectors down here which aren't actually grafted in yet, and then we had the second stage that we're going to run at high RPM. We got I've been given a length from here to here, so I've got that length all worked out correctly, what they said would work best for torque and all the rest of it. So yeah, I was really keen on this. Now what I'll do is I'll just take the head off, and we'll do a talk about that, but I'll have to just turn the camera off for a second. Okay, got the head off so you can see where we're up to inside. So if you look at the head, I mean, what an absolute gem of a head. Lovely shallow chamber, so we could attain quite a good compression ratio without any intrusion on the piston. And then look at the size of that inlet, you know, it's enormous, isn't it? I mean, there's going to be no issues with getting the down there. So yeah, that was really exciting for me, the head. Obviously it wants skimming and seats cutting, loads of work to be done yet. The block, I did actually get quite far with it, as in I made this plate because the head's bigger than the Lotus head, so obviously we've got to support it all the way around. So I made this spacer plate, which also I made it all so that I could get the rod to work at 2-to-1 rod to stroke ratio. So that's why that was done that way. The liners are in, it's actually bored and honed. I've just got to drill the waterways matching here. I was going to change the water flow direction. I was going to try and run the cold water into the top of the head and then run the hot water at the bottom of the head, that was at the bottom of the block. That was my theory. I had loads of different things, but you know what, I'll be perfectly honest with you, part of the reason why I've never seen this project through is because I'm just staggered by how much I keep learning about engines. So if we'd have done this like 8-9 years ago, it probably wouldn't have worked. But I think I know enough now to be able to get it to work and get good power out of it, you know, just little things that you pick up as you go along. So I've got no time at the moment, but when we get into the new unit, I do want to you know, really set aside like a 1 day a week and get stuck into it. It's not far off. I've got the blasting cabinet now, so we can get it aqua blasted and make it all look pretty, get all this drilled. Obviously this is just a second-hand alternator, you know, but we could get a new alternator and graft all that pulley on, and just do all the bits absolutely 100% correctly so that we get the best result out of it. And then I can ring Tim and say, right Tim, your engine's ready, because you know, he's been absolutely good as gold as a customer. He flies the flag really high for me, and always, you know, he makes a good effort, does a lot of rallying. So yeah, I'd love to see this engine in that car going round. That'd make me so happy. But anyway, we will get to it one day, so I'll leave that at that for now. And yeah, I'll say that, well, no, I'm not even going to make a promise. I'll just say that hopefully we should see a tune out of this next year. That's it. I'll say next year, and then that gives me the full year to get something done with it, as well as building a space frame imp and all the rest of it. Okay, YouTubers, on the subject of projects and special projects, this is my friend Nick's transit van recovery truck that he has put a BMW engine in. Now, I've known Nick for a long time. We've just been having a little chat. Nick, thanks for coming on the show and showing us your transit. When did we meet, do you think?
I reckon it's probably about 2000 when I had an Escort Cabriolet. I wanted a turbo engine put in it, and you used to work for, I think it was 10 quid an hour, something like that.
Yeah, I'm on 11 now.
So yeah, that's when I got to know you.
Wow.
Nice, cheap, like, wasn't even worth doing it myself.
You didn't tell me that at the time. I remember you being quite hard on getting the money, are you?
Well, I've got more now.
Well, Nick had this Escort turbo. I mean, you've got to remember, this is like 25 years ago, isn't it? So we used to all drive around the retail parks and we had our RS turbos. And Nick had like a max power specialist, had a wide body kit. It was a Mark IV Escort turbo. And didn't you buy an accident damage RS turbo?
Yes, I bought an RS turbo, give it to you, and you swapped everything over. I think I even bought off you, thinking back, the Series 1 turbo arches, and had them blended in.
Wow, yeah.
You went rooting on top of you.
I remember before ZVH, the Z-Tec bottom end of the CVH head came popular, I had an RS 1800 Fiesta that had been crashed, and I think you had the bottom end with your head.
So the story with that was, I tried to buy the bottom end off you because you'd put the lower compression pistons in it for quite a few months.
Right.
And at one point you were skint, so you sold me that for 200 quid.
And it's still going, that engine, isn't it?
Yeah, it's in another car now. I sold the car, it's in, but it's actually now rear wheel drive converted in a Mark II Escort.
Wow, we were cracking them Z-Tec conversions. Much better bottom end than the CVH. But I mean, this thing, I borrowed this only 3 months ago or something, or 4 months ago, to go and pick a car up, and it had a Banana 2.5 non-turbo diesel, the old, like the modified York engine or whatever it was. But you've put a 2 litre turbo diesel from a modern day BMW with full, is it common rail?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not too up on stuff like that.
You must be pretty well up on it. To think you've done all this work. I mean, look at you've done a lot of welding as well, haven't you?
Yeah.
So wow, I mean, 5-speed gearbox. It's got power steering, air conditioning. Let's have a look down here. It's even got the is that a DPF or a catalyst?
It's a cat.
It's a cat.
It's a non-DPF, this model.
Ah, right. So yeah, and air conditioning radiator. Let's have a little peep inside. Just open the door. I've got my microphone. What are these Mark 8 transit seats?
Mark 8 transit seats.
They fit lovely then. Pedal box from BMW.
Full pedal box out of the same car.
Let's have a hop in. Look at that dashboard.
Yeah, it's custom made, the dash.
Yeah.
It's a GPS speedo as well, because the speed sensor on the ECU wouldn't connect up.
Wow. Let's hear it. Does it sound good? It doesn't sound like a petrol engine, does it? It's got a separate key there.
Yeah,
oh, I see.
But I've kept the immobiliser, so.
Good idea. Look at that. Where's the exhaust pipe?
Side exhaust, like it was originally.
Chucking a bit of fuel in that, mate. Bit of black there. Oh, it's lovely. I bet it goes like a scolded cat, doesn't it?
It does.
But you're not actually a recovery driver for a living, are you? And you're not actually a mechanic.
No, so I'm a salesperson.
A salesperson.
I literally bought this just to move my Metro around because it's such low mileage.
See, I've heard there's a salesperson in Manchester, and he goes round buying all cars out of garages.
Oh, if I see one, I'll buy one.
Oh, Nick, well, thanks for showing us around the Transit. It's an absolute dream that. If you ever want to sell it, if the day ever comes, can I buy it?
You'll be the first on my list.
Oh, you're a diamond, thank you.
Hang on, what's this here? Reverse camera?
Gotta be done.
Wow. Right, no wheel spins. For those that are interested, I've done a little bit more on the OM651 Mercedes engine, the one I talked about, the wife's car, you know. And I've got to change this oil cooler here, which I've finally got to. And the chap who I got the advice off at Mercedes, he said make sure you take the inlet manifold off and replace the O-ring, because he said it will be blowing, and he was dead right. Manifold was all loose. I don't know, the plastic settled.
It's horrible. Just look at this for horrible. Crikey. Look at the cacking there. Look at the state of that. That's your flappers to make it a dual length inlet manifold. So I've got that off. So we're on the home run now. We get this oil cooler off, which is just there. Change the O-rings on that. Hopefully that'll be every O-ring and every possible oil leak that we can. Oh, hang on, we're getting some abuse now. What are you saying, you?
Oh, you're looking at him there, you look like you found something.
Oh no, I'm looking at me in that manifold. Look at that. Last time I saw you, you walked past here with breakfast and none of it was for me.
Oh, that's 2 weeks ago, that.
Yeah, I know, but I've not forgotten, mate. No, it's all apart now, Steve. I'm buzzing. Right. Look at that. Look at the state of it. If you've ever seen one of these with an oil leak, don't buy it.
Don't forget me strands for Tuesday.
Oh, got them there, mate. I'll walk them down now.
Oh, yeah, I'm going. I'm just taking these out now.
Top man. Cheers, buddy. So we'll get this one off, this oil cooler off, replace the O-rings, and we'll start cleaning it all up. I've operated a very old school operation here called treat time. So what I do is, basically, every time we get a nasty bolt undone, I have a treacle toffee. It's like a little like carrot and donkey job, you know. So I've got all my bits here. Look at all this. It's got some crazy flat valve system on it. All my bolts are there. That's some sort of something else. Don't know what that does. Look at that. I blanked the EGR off, but you know what? It'd probably throw a right hissy fit. You'll spend about £300 having it remapped. So I want to clean it all, put it back together properly as Mercedes intended, and hope for the best. Okay, just to conclude, I've sussed out exactly what was the problem all the way along. I took the cam cover off, and it seems that the clever engineers at Mercedes have put the engine in back to front. It's actually got the timing chain at the flywheel end of the engine. Now, I have seen this before on a Renault 4 back in the 80s, and that did work to a point, but this, wow, what a complicated job this is. Anyway, joking apart, the beauty of all this modern day stuff is there's one rule. They all suffer the same problems. So when I said to my pal at Mercedes, got this OM651 lump with problems, he went, oil cooler pipes, oil cooler O-rings leaking. He said the chain tension will be leaking, which is at the back round the corner underneath here. I've just whacked my finger under there, that is leaking. He said the cam cover bolts will slackened off and be leaking. They were all loose and leaking. And he said the inlet manifold would be blowing underneath, and the inlet manifold was blowing underneath. So, fair play. Thanks for the help, because we wouldn't have got there without help. So I've got all the bits here. I'm going to start cleaning it all up. That's the oil cooler where it mounts on the block. So can you see the little trace under the O-ring there where it's been leaking? Absolutely chucking it out. So this now, we've really broken its back now. Tomorrow, Monday when I come in, I'll be able to get stuck right into it and get it in the out tray. Make the wife happy.
Okay, YouTubers, congratulations, you've made it to the end of the video without falling asleep. Hope you've enjoyed what you've seen, and I look forward to seeing you all next Sunday at 7. If I can find anything to put on in the week, I will do as a separate video. It'll be either Tuesday or Wednesday. Cheers now, bye-bye.